There's a thing nobody tells you about the desert, and I'll tell it to you now because I've earned the right the hard way. The desert does not forget. It keeps everything. Every footprint you think the wind erased, every promise you buried under a flat rock so you wouldn't have to look at it, every face you swore you'd never see again. The land holds all of it in some cold ledger, and it waits. It has all the time in the world. You do not. I'm telling you this because I was a man who thought he'd outrun his own history. I had a name I'd stopped answering to. I had a past folded up small and stuffed somewhere behind my ribs where I figured it couldn't reach me. And then, on a nothing morning in a nothing canyon, with the light coming up copper over the rimrock, a woman I had never in my life laid eyes on looked straight through me and said a word out loud that only 3 living people should have known. My name, my real one. And everything I'd built on top of the lie I'd been living came down like a rotten fence in a hard rain. Stay with me, because what she told me next was worse than being found and better than anything I deserved. This is the story of the morning the desert finished waiting. 2 parts. Sit close. I've never told it right until now. The mule went down first, and that's how I knew the morning had turned wrong. She was a good animal, that mule, steady, unbothered, the kind that would stand in a lightning storm and blink at you like you were the fool for flinching. So when her legs buckled under her on the flat and she dropped to her knees in the caliche dust, I knew before I knew. Snakebite, maybe, or her heart. Old animals and old men, we go the same way in the end. Quiet, sudden, and always at the worst possible hour. I got down off her before she rolled, knelt in the grit beside her big warm ribs and put my hand flat on her neck and felt the breath sawing in and out of her, too fast, too shallow. Her eye rolled up at me, dark and wet and full of something I didn't want to name. I'd like to tell you I said something wise. I didn't. I said, easy. Easy, girl, which is what you say when there's nothing left to do and you can't stand the silence. My name is, well, that's the whole trouble, isn't it? For 11 years I'd gone by Tom Reller. Tom Reller ran a little scrub outfit 40 miles north of the border, ran it badly, ran it alone, and that was how Tom Reller liked it. Tom Reller didn't drink in town. Tom Reller didn't take the mail. Tom Reller kept a ledger in his head of exactly how many people had ever gotten close enough to do him harm, and the number was low, and he intended to keep it that way. But Tom Reller wasn't the name my mother gave me, and the desert, as I've told you, keeps everything. I mention the mule because grief has a way of cracking a man open at the exact wrong moment, and when the whisper came, I was already cracked, already down on my knees, already soft. I heard the footstep before the voice. Just one, the small dry crunch of a moccasin on gravel, close, closer than anyone should have gotten to me without my hearing them 100 yards out. I came up fast and hard with my hand going for the pistol on my hip, and I got it halfway drawn before I saw her, and something in the seeing stopped my hand cold. She stood maybe 10 feet off at the mouth of the wash where the shadow was still blue with the leftover night. Apache. That much I knew at a glance, the way she stood, the plain sense of her, the long dark skirt gone pale with dust, the calico faded to the color of a thing that has lived a long time under a hard sun. Older than me, or maybe just older in the way the country made people old. Her face was a map of the land itself, all dry arroyos and patient stone. She wasn't armed that I could see. She wasn't afraid, which frightened me more than a weapon would have. I want to be honest with you about what I felt because if I dress it up you'll stop believing me and you'd be right to. What I felt was the animal thing. The thing that had kept me alive down here all these years. Threat, stranger, run or fight. My whole body sang with it. My thumb was on the hammer. And then she said the word. Not Tom. Not Reller. She said the name my mother whispered against my scalp when I was small enough to carry. The name on a grave marker 2,000 miles east that I had personally paid a stonecutter to carve so that a certain kind of man would stop looking for me. She said it soft, almost kind, the way you'd say a thing to wake a sleeper without startling them. I won't write it here. Some habits keep you alive even when they've stopped mattering, but I'll tell you what it did. It took the strength out of my legs, the same as it had taken it out of the mule. I didn't fall. Pride's a stronger thing than muscle sometimes. But the pistol came down, and my mouth came open, and for a long moment the only sound in that whole wide burning country was the mule's breath rattling behind me, and the blood going loud in my own ears. How? I said. It wasn't even a whole word. It was the front half of every question I had, and there were 100 of them, and they all jammed in the door at once. She didn't answer right away. She looked past me at the mule, and something moved across her face, not pity exactly, but a recognition. Like she knew the animal. Like she knew this exact scene. A man on his knees in the dirt beside a dying thing, better than she knew almost anything else in the world. "She is going," the woman said. Her English was slow and careful and accented, each word set down deliberately like stones across a creek. "You should let her go. Holding does not help. It only makes it long." I looked back at the mule. Her breathing had changed. Slower now, but long gaps, then a sudden greedy gulp. I knew that rhythm. I'd knelt beside enough dying things to know it. My hand was still on her neck. I hadn't noticed I'd never taken it off. "I don't know you," I said, and my voice came out hoarse and stupid and pleading, which was not how Tom Reller talked to anybody. "I have never seen your face in my life. How do you know that name?" She crouched down. Not near me, she kept her distance, the way you keep distance from a dog you're not sure of, but low, so we were more or less eye to eye. And she looked at me with those patient stone-colored eyes, and she said, "Because I have been carrying it for a woman who could not carry it herself, for a long time, longer than you would think a person could carry a thing so heavy." She paused. "She said I would know you by the way you would not look at me, and you did not, until now. Now here is where I have to slow down, friend, and tell you a little of what came before, because otherwise the next part won't land on you the way it landed on me. And you deserve to have it land. 11 years back, 12, near enough, I was another man in another life. And I had a partner in a hard business that I am not proud of. We ran cattle that weren't always ours across a line that didn't always agree to be crossed. It was ugly work and it made ugly men, and I was one of them for a while, and I've made what peace I can with that, which is not much. On one of those crossings, everything went wrong at once, the way it does. There was shooting. There was a family not part of our business, just people in the wrong place, a wagon, a fire out on the flat. And in the smoke and the dark and the panic, a thing happened that I have spent every day since trying and failing to set down, even to myself. There was a child. I'm going to leave it there for a moment, not to be cruel to you, to be kind to me. I'll come back to it. I have to come back to it. But let me get there in my own time the way she let me get there in mine. "Who sent you?" I said. My voice had gone flat and cold now, which is what it does when the fear gets too big and turns into something else. "Tell me who sent you. Was it Callie's? Is Callie still alive? You tell that son of a—" "No one sent me." She said it sharp, the first sharpness she'd shown, and it shut me up. "You think in the shape of your own life. Everyone comes with a knife, so the woman who does not come with a knife must be somebody's knife arm. No." She shook her head slowly. "I came because a dying woman asked me to, and because I am old and I have been putting it off, and there is no more off left to put it to." Behind me the mule made a long sound, low in her chest, and then her breath let go all at once, the way water lets go of a broken jar. Gone, just like that. The stillness that came after was enormous. I sat back on my heels in the dust. I didn't cry, I want to be straight with you. I didn't. I'm not sure I know how anymore. That particular pipe rusted shut a long time ago. But something in me sat down alongside the mule and did not get up. 11 years of being nobody, of being Tom Reller who wanted nothing and was owed nothing. And it took one stranger and one dead mule and one whispered name to undo all of it before the sun had even cleared the ridge. The woman waited. She was good at waiting. I'd come to learn it was near the whole of what she was, a person shaped entirely around the patience of waiting for a thing she dreaded to arrive. "You said a woman," I finally got out. "A dying woman asked you. What woman?" And she told me a name. And the desert, which keeps everything, gave it back to me all at once. A face I'd seen for maybe 30 seconds in firelight 12 years ago. A woman's face contorted around a scream. Reaching, reaching across the flames toward the small shape I was already, God forgive me, already carrying away from the fire in my arms. Because in the chaos I had grabbed it up thinking to save it. Thinking in that half second I was doing the one decent thing available to a man in the middle of an indecent act. I had taken a child out of a fire, and then everything had gone to pieces around us, and I had run, and in the running. Stop, I said out loud to no one, to the past, to myself. Stop. The Apache woman did not stop. She had waited 11 years. She was done waiting. The child lived, she said. The world tilted. I put my hand flat in the dirt to keep from going over. You hear me, she said, and now her own voice had gone rough, and I understood for the first time that this was costing her too, that she wasn't a messenger delivering someone else's mail, that she was standing at the edge of her own cliff same as me. The child you carried out of the fire, the one you thought, the one everyone told the mother had died in your arms in the dark, that child lived, and the woman who raised her, her voice caught. She pressed her lips together and mastered it and went on quieter. The woman who raised her is the one who sent me. Before she died, 3 weeks ago, she made me swear I would find you and tell you 2 things before your own end found you first. I could not speak. There wasn't a word in me anywhere. The first thing, the woman said, is that the child lived and grew and is a woman now and is good, kind, strong, everything you would want and have no right to want. She let that sit on me a moment. Then, and the second thing. She stopped. The sun broke over the ridge right then, and threw its first hard light down into the wash, gold and merciless, lighting up every line in her face and the dust hanging in the still air between us like something almost solid, like you could reach out and take a handful of the morning itself. The second thing, she said, she made me promise I would only tell you if you were still the kind of man who would fall down beside a dying mule and keep your hand on her neck so she would not die alone. Her stone-colored eyes held mine. I have been watching you from the ridge since first light. I saw you do it before you knew anyone was watching. So, a long breath. So I will tell you the second thing. And that is where I have to make you wait, friend, the way she made me wait, the way the desert made all of us wait. Because the second thing changed everything that came after, and it deserves a clean page and a steady breath, and you're going to want to be sitting down for it same as I was. I have thought a great deal in the years since about mercy, about what it is and what it costs and who gets to hand it out. I used to think mercy was a soft thing, a thing weak men talked about because they didn't have the stomach for the hard road. I don't think that anymore. I've come to believe mercy is the heaviest thing a person can pick up. It's certainly the heaviest thing I ever carried, heavier than the child, heavier than the 11 years, heavier than the name. But I'm getting ahead. Let me set you back down in that wash, in that gold morning light, with a dead mule cooling behind me and a stranger about to hand me the second half of my own life. The second thing, the Apache woman said, and then she did something I didn't expect. She reached into the folds of her skirt slow, so I could see there was no weapon, and she brought out a small flat bundle wrapped in a scrap of trade cloth gone the color of dried blood. She held it a moment, like it weighed more than it could possibly weigh. Then she set it down on a flat stone between us and drew her hand back. "Open it," she said. I didn't want to. I want you to understand that. Every coward part of me, and there are a great many coward parts of me, I've cataloged them all over the years. Every one of them wanted to get up and walk away into the desert and go back to being Tom Reller who wanted nothing. It would have been easier. God, it would have been so much easier. There is a particular kind of peace in being no one, in owing no one, in having already decided that you are a closed account. I had built a whole life inside that peace. It wasn't a good life, but it was quiet, and quiet had come to seem like the most a man like me could ask. But I thought of the mule. I thought of my hand on her neck. I thought, if I am still that man, if that woman watched me from the ridge and judged me still that man, then I don't get to walk away from the rest of it. Mercy given had to be mercy earned had to be mercy paid forward, and the ledger doesn't let you take just the sweet half. I opened the cloth. Inside was a photograph, one of those hard little tin ones, cracked across a corner, foxed brown with age and handling. A young woman, dark hair pulled back plain, a serious mouth that looked like it wanted to smile and had decided not to on principle for the length of the exposure. And her eyes. I knew those eyes. Not because they were the child's, though they were. I knew them because they were my mother's. Same set. Same steady, patient challenge in them, like she was waiting to see whether you'd disappoint her and had already forgiven you in advance for when you did. 2,000 miles east and 40 years back. My mother had looked at me exactly like that across a supper table, and here it was again in a cracked tin photograph in the middle of the Arizona desert, looking up at me out of a face I had helped to save, and then abandoned in the same terrible hour. Her name, the woman said gently, is not a name you gave her. The woman who raised her called her something else. I will let her tell you that herself if you go. If I go, my voice didn't sound like mine. Go where? She has a place. 3 days' ride west and north, near the agency, but not of it. She raises goats. She has a husband who is quiet and good and does not deserve to be dragged into any of this, so you will mind your manners if you meet him. A flicker of something almost like humor crossed the old woman's face and was gone. She does not know you are alive. She does not know what you were, or what happened that night, or that the man who carried her from the fire is not the man the story says died carrying her. The woman who raised her decided long ago that the child should grow up believing she was saved by a hero who died for her. It was a kindness. It was also a lie. And the woman who raised her could not die easy carrying a lie that big, so she gave it to me to set right or not. She leveled those stone eyes at me. That is the choice, and it is the second thing, and it is the whole reason I came. You can go to her. You can tell her the truth that the hero who saved her lived and was no hero and ran and became a small hard man in a scrub outfit 40 miles from nowhere and carried her name folded up behind his ribs for 11 years because he could not bear to carry anything else. You can give her that, the truth, which is heavy and ugly and yours to give. She paused. Or you can do nothing. You can let the beautiful lie stand. Let her keep her dead hero. Ride back to your empty place and be Tom Reller until the desert takes you. No one will blame you. I will not blame you. The dead woman freed me from making you choose. She said the choosing had to be yours or it was worth nothing. The sun was full up now. The wash had gone from blue to gold to plain hard white, and the heat was starting to come up off the caliche in shimmers, and somewhere up on the rimrock, a canyon wren let loose that long falling song they sing, that little cascade of notes that always sounds to me like something being gently let go of. I sat there with the photograph in my 2 hands, and I understood that I was holding the fork of my whole remaining life. Let me tell you about the coward's argument because I made it to myself right there and I made it well. The coward's argument goes like this. The lie is kinder, she's happy. She has a good life, a quiet husband, her goats, her dead hero. What does the truth give her? It gives her a living coward for a father-shaped stranger. It gives her a night of fire and screaming she was too small to remember. It takes her hero and hands her a wretch. Who are you serving with the truth? Not her. Yourself. You want to confess so you can feel clean. The truly merciful thing, the truly selfless thing, is to eat this alone and let her keep her beautiful lie. It's a good argument. It's airtight. And I have watched enough men use exactly that shape of reasoning to justify exactly the easy thing they already wanted to do, that the very airtightness of it is what finally made me distrust it. Because here is the thing I had learned, kneeling beside 100 dying animals over 11 years, keeping my hand on their necks so they would not go alone. The merciful thing and the easy thing are almost never the same thing. And when they line up too neat, when the noble path and the comfortable path turn out to run in exactly the same direction, that's precisely when a man ought to stop and check his own pockets, because he's about to get robbed by his own good opinion of himself. The truth would cost me everything. The 11 years of quiet, the peace of being no one. It would cost her the hero, yes, but it would give her something I had no right to decide she didn't want, the chance to know, to choose, to look the real thing in the face and make up her own mind, the way the old woman was making me make up mine. The lie kept her safe by keeping her small. And I did not have the right. I who had already taken so much from her in one night of fire. I did not have the right to take her own truth from her too and call it a gift. How long ago did she die? I asked. The woman who raised her. 3 weeks, I told you. And you've been 3 weeks finding me. I have been 11 years finding you, the woman said. The last 3 were only the walking. I looked at the mule, my good steady mule who would have stood in a lightning storm, dead in the dirt because her old heart finally quit, on the one morning of 11 years when her quitting put me on my knees at the exact moment. A stranger came out of the shadows carrying my whole buried life in a scrap of bloody cloth. I am not a man who believes in signs. I've seen too much of what the desert does to men who believe in signs. But I'll tell you, I sat there and I looked at that dead mule and I thought, you held on just long enough to put me down on the ground where I could be found. You waited. Even you waited. The desert keeps everything, and sometimes, once in a very long while, it gives a thing back. I'll need to bury her, I said. My voice had steadied. Something in me had steadied. The mule, I won't leave her for the coyotes. It'll take me till noon in this ground. The old woman watched me. Something shifted in her face, a loosening, a letting go, like a rope that's been drawn tight for 11 years finally being allowed to go slack. She understood what the words meant. She understood I'd made the choice inside them without ever saying it out loud. Which is the only way I've ever been able to make the big ones. I will help you, she said. The ground is hard, 2 is faster than 1. And she got down off her rock, this ancient patient woman who had carried my name across a desert and 11 years to lay it down at my feet, and she picked up a flat stone to dig with. And together, without any more words, we began to break the hard white ground. We buried the mule through the worst heat of the day. It took longer than noon. My hands blistered, and then the blisters broke, and then I stopped noticing. The old woman worked beside me the whole time, slower than me but never stopping, and neither of us spoke, and there was a kind of grace in it, in the two of us breaking that ground together, that I have never found the words for and have stopped trying to. When it was done, we stood over the little raised place in the dirt, and I didn't say anything holy because I don't know anything holy, but I put my hand flat on the fresh-turned earth the way I'd kept it on her neck one last time, and then I took it away. I've thought a lot since about how the whole of a life can turn on whether a man is willing to stay on his knees a few seconds longer than his pride wants him to. If I'd stood up faster when the mule went down, if I'd been already up and moving and hard-eyed when that moccasin crunched on the gravel, the old woman told me later she'd have kept walking. She'd have watched from the ridge, seen a closed-off man with no give left in him, and judged the truth too dangerous to hand him. She'd have taken my name back into the desert and let me die Tom Reller. It was the kneeling that saved me, the staying down, the hand on the neck of a dying thing that couldn't do a single thing for me in return. Mercy is the heaviest thing a person can pick up, but I've come to think it's the only thing that ever really lets you set the other weights down. We rode west and north the next morning, me on my saddle horse, the old woman on the spare, 3 days across country that got greener and higher and kinder the whole way. She told me things as we rode, small things, what the child had been like small, that she'd been a solemn baby and a wild girl and had come around to solemn again as a woman, the way people do, that she sang to the goats, that her quiet husband had built her a chair with his own hands, and she sat in it every evening and watched the light go. I won't tell you what happened when we got there. Some things a man ought to keep for himself, and that meeting is mine, and I find when I try to set it down the words go all to pieces in my hands. I'll tell you only this much. She was standing in the yard when we rode up, shading her eyes against the westering sun, and she watched us come, and she did not know me from Adam, a dusty stranger on a tired horse, nothing more. And then the old woman said something to her, low, in a language I don't have. And the woman's hand came down from her eyes, and she looked at me. Really looked. The way you look at a thing you've been waiting for your whole life without knowing you were waiting. And she took one step toward me, and her mouth opened. And